Hey guys, and welcome to another TFT guide. Today I'm going to be showing you how to econ and reroll in set 3. This guide will cover the early, mid-game, as well as basic terminology that you need to know for this guide. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the first basic terminology that I want to go over with you is interest. Now, the way interest works in TFT is that for every 10 gold you have, you will gain 1 gold, capping at 50 gold. So for example, as you see on the chart, if you have 10 to 19 gold, you get 1 gold, 20 to 29 plus 2 gold, all the way up to 50 where you can get an extra 5 gold. Now, the other thing I want you to know is streaking. Streaking is essentially consecutive wins or losses, and this allows you to generate extra gold from this process. So for example, if you have 1 win or 1 loss, you'll get no gold, 2 wins or losses in a row, 1 gold, 3 wins or losses in a row, 3 gold, 4 you'll get +2, and then 5 you'll get +3. As you can see on the chart, I put this up here so you can clearly understand the basics, and without further ado, let's get into the early game part of this guide. Now, the early game guide is going to cover 3 basic strategies, each one getting more aggressive than the last. So I'm going to show you the most passive strategy, and this is the strategy that I like to use most of the time, but it's essentially you don't even level up at all. You just sort of let yourself level up naturally all the way to level 5. And why is this good? This is good for compositions where you want to save up your gold so you can start slow rolling. Now, slow rolling is essentially re-rolling above 50 gold, so that way you're optimizing the interest that you're getting while at the same time getting champions that you need from the reroll process. So this passive strategy is the easiest, it is the safest, and is very good for comps that you're going to have to reroll for at levels 5 to 6. So for example, Protectors, Mech Infiltrators, Dark Star is also pretty good for this, Sorcerer Star Guardians, just stuff where you need to reroll a lot and slow roll in the mid game. The reason why I've circled 3, 3, and 3, 5 is because these are the stages where you should be hitting 50 gold. So if you're not hitting 50 gold at this point, you may want to make sure that you're optimizing your gold as well, because some people like to buy a lot of units to make sure they have a good spread of units and maybe decide what they want to go. However, having that ability to decide is detrimenting your interest. So make sure you still decide what kind of build you still want to go, or have some sort of idea while maintaining your interest. Now for the next early game strategy, we're going something in between aggressive and in between passive. Now the reason why you're leveling up at 2-1 is because you're going to be at a 2 out of 6 XP at this point. Leveling up at this point of the game will allow you to go to level 4 and have an additional unit in your team when versing those early game enemy units. Also, the reason why you level up at stage 2-5 is because of the fact that you'll be at 6 out of 10 EXP, and leveling up will give you an extra 5th unit to verse these enemy comps. This strategy is really good if you have a lot of early game 2 stars which you can win streak off of, or you have really strong early game synergies such as cybernetics or blasters. Now for the next early game strategy, this is going to be the hyper aggressive strategy, and like it shows on the board, you're going to want to level up once at 2-1 and then level up twice at 2-2. Now I want to preface this strategy by saying that you're not going to be able to go this strategy every time. The only way you'll be able to utilize this strategy is from the neutral rounds beforehand, and if you get a lot of gold from them, then you'll be able to have enough gold to level up once at 2-1 and twice at 2-2. This strategy is rarely used, but I have seen people be successful with it, and the way you want to run it is that when you level up at 2-2 twice, you essentially hit level 5, and this will allow you to have 5 units in your comp, and that will destroy most people's enemy teams, which will usually have 3. The real idea behind this strategy is that at level 5, this is the first time where you can get 4 cost units. So when you get lucky on your rerolls and manage to get some sort of 4 cost, you're going to buy them and put them in straight away. The reason for this is because 4 cost units are significantly stronger than 1, 2, and 3 cost units. Now, the reason why this strategy is so difficult is because of the fact that you need to know how to utilize every 4 cost unit. You're not going to be able to pick and choose which 4 cost unit you get, so if you are unable to utilize every 4 cost unit, I recommend 2 of the other strategies that I've suggested before. Now we are getting into the mid-game part of the guide, and I just want to give you one fundamental tip before I start, and that is when playing TFT, you should have decided your comp by the Wolf stage or Infiltrators in set 3. And this is because this is when people start finalizing their builds, but if you haven't decided then, that's fine, but you should be deciding between 2 comps by then. And by the time you get to the Aqua Raptors, you should have one definite build that you're going, so make sure you have that in your mind. The first strategy I'm going to go over is the hard reroll strategy. This strategy is really good for getting 3-star 2 cost units. Now the way this is going to work, it is going to come out of that early game passive strategy where you're going to have 50 gold at around 3-3 and 3-5, and essentially you're going to all hard reroll that at round 4-1 where you'll be level 5, and at level 5 your chances of rolling a 2 cost is at its maximum, so you'll be able to roll for those 2 costs really hard and be able to 3-star them. This strategy is really good for the comp 4 Protector 4 Mystic, where you're going to be rerolling hard for Xin Zhao, Econ, and Sona, as well as the fact that it can be sometimes good for Blade Bros, where you can reroll for that Yasuo, and it's also really good for the new up-and-coming comp, Space Jam, where you can reroll for the Darius, Xin Zhao, and the Econ. Now the first strategy I showed you is really rare, so I'm going to be covering a more common strategy. This is called the slow reroll strategy. This strategy is really good for 3-starring 3-cost units and is really good for Mech Pilot Infiltrators, 6 Darkstar, Star Guardian Sorcerers, as well as any other comps where you're going to want to 3-star a 3-cost unit. Now the way this strategy is going to work is that you're going to level up at stage 3-6 or stage 4-1, whichever it keeps you above 50 gold. Then after you hit level 6, you're going to be slow rerolling for the 3-cost units that you want. Essentially what slow rerolling is just rerolling every time you're above 50 gold to make sure you're optimizing your interest. Now, after slow rerolling for all of round 4, you're going to probably have most of the units you want, but maybe you won't have that 3-star 3-cost unit. So now you have a choice at stage 5-1. You're going to decide, do I want to reroll hard for those extra units that I need to 3-star my units, or do I wait and just try to go for level 7 or 8? This is up to you. That's why I highlighted it in green, because of the fact that it's up to you whether you want to reroll or not. When deciding to reroll at stage 5-1, make sure you are going to units that are going to carry your comp. So for example, in 6 Darkstar and Mech Pilot Infiltrators, you're probably going to want to reroll for Rumble, Shaco, and if possible maybe Annie and Kaiser as well, because the chances of getting 2-cost units at level 6 is still relatively high. Both 2 costs and 3 costs will be at 35%, so make sure you utilize that. For Blade Bros, you're going to probably try and reroll for Master Yi and Yasuo, and then on top of that for Star Guardian Sorcerers, you're probably going to be rerolling for Syndra, Nico, Ari, so make sure you know what you're rerolling for depending on what comp you're using. For the last econing strategy we're going over, it will be rushing level 8, and the strategy is in the name. Essentially we're going to be rushing to level 8. Now I have circled the stages where you're probably going to want to level up at, red being the first level up, orange being the second level up, and green being the last level up. So for the first level up from level 5 to 6, you're either going to level up at stage 3-6 or stage 4-1. After that, you're going to level up at stage 4-6 from 6 to 7, and then after that, you're going to level up at stage 5-2 from 7 to 8. The reason why the rush level 8 strategy is so good is essentially from level 7 to level 8, your chances of rerolling for a 5-cost unit goes from 1 to 6%. This allows your rerolls to have way higher chances of getting a 5-cost unit, which is really good for 6 Cybernetics since you're going to need that Echo to finish off your build, 6 Rebels since you're going to need Aurelion Soul, Space Pirates because you're probably going to need Gangplank, and then on top of that, Misfortune and Thresh for Chrono KO. So if you're going any of these builds, I highly recommend rushing level 8. Just a quick side note for this strategy, I know this strategy is very passive and doesn't involve a lot of rerolling. However, if you do have a lot of pairs on your bench, you can reroll to 2-star those units to carry you through the mid game. That is going to be it for the early mid game econ guide. I hope you learned something from this, and if you did, feel free to like the video, and if you want updates on my future content, feel free to subscribe. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next video.